Hey Desiree, how's it going? It's been a busy week. I hope things are going well on your end of the internet, your side of the interwebs. Two MRIs. Hope you're okay. MRIs aren't too bad though. Or they put the dye, they give you the shot, and they put you in the tube thing. I've had some of them myself. Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, I've been working on these. Just try to keep my brain inside my skull while getting things ready for Rhode Island Comic Con, because I do a lot of work for them, and it's a big old show. Oh, okay. I hope they saw everything and did not find anything wrong and didn't miss anything. That's right, I did see your post about that. Sorry, I forgot. Been stuck in my little bubble for the past few weeks. Sure, I will. Did I miss a DM? I'm sorry. I don't. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed a message. Yeah, my wife keeps telling me to put the Facebook app on my phone, but I still keep using just the website, and that way you know, I don't know. I feel like it's not taking over my phone with notifications and stuff. I already get so many notifications. I don't know. I try to turn them off, but I didn't have time to do the underpainting finishing. This is part of the underpainting, and what I do is I use a because we're dealing with greens here. Obviously, yellow is half of green, and it's a good good way to add some depth to the green that'll go over top, which I already mixed. I try to at least do a little color mixing. I had some left over from the when I did finish yesterday. Discord? Is that is that one that I need to know about? I'm still trying to figure out the TikTok and all that stuff. I just haven't had time to make any of those time lapses. I like the time lapses; they're cool. They just they do require some labor. Now, if I need to use my dryer here, I'll hit the mic. I'll turn the mic off so you don't have to hear it. But yeah, getting everything ready for Rhode Island. I pulled the books I'm going to get signed, or at least try to get signed. Sometimes I don't have time to get away from my booth, but I like to be prepared, in case I get to see people and meet people. I got some of my friends' books that I haven't had a chance to see them and have them sign their work. And, hopefully it's good. Hopefully there's some people that are there for more than just like celebrity stuff. It's a very celebrity centric show, but there's, a ton of people that get through the door, and, it's up to us to hopefully have something that they want to check out. I have a lot of fun. It's been really relaxing to do watercolor again. And I could definitely see myself when I'm an old man. I just doing watercolors, you know, once people are sick of my cartoons. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Yeah, I've got some stuff for Lenardi. I've got stuff for Mr. Campana. I special ordered a Vampirella book he did the interiors for ages ago from Dynamite, and I just haven't seen him. He canceled his appearance at Colorado Springs for some family stuff he was dealing with, so I just haven't seen him. Got one for Mr. St. Pierre. Got one for Mr. Finch. A couple for Chaikin. I know Howard charges now for his signatures, so I don't know. I used to always bring like his old stuff and a new one for him to sign, but I feel like if I'm paying the freight, I'll just bring whatever the heck I want. Got a couple for Mr. Broderick to sign. It'll be fun. It'll at least that part of it will be. Anywhere where I'm trying to keep neutral colors, I don't add any warm undertones. I want the extra pop to be with the different areas. This is actually one of the things I find interesting about the Ninja Turtles, actually, especially with the modern interpretations, is their color palette. And one of the things that they always use is yellow ochre. Quite a bit of yellow ochre. If you're a painter, you know that color well. In Colorado, it was not for the Hero Initiative. It was just he was just charging for signatures. And he would say, "Why would you have him sign something that if you already have something signed by him?" Well, the truth is I really like his work, and I think he's an important creator, and I've read a lot of his books. Well, there's our yellow undertone. Now Donnie, his green is a little different from the other greens. It's a little more neutral, so we're gonna mix in a little bit of raw umber. That's what this is right here. This is raw umber. You can see how it gets that little spin there. We're going to give that a little mix, and you can see it comes out a little more neutral. It's not quite as brilliant as some of the other ones. You see that? It's a little more neutral. Actually, we're going to need a little bit more paint in there. Bring up the tones, because I like to use a lot of pigment in my stuff. I like lots of color. If I'm doing color, I'm doing color. Got a couple for Lenardi, yeah, because I don't see him very often. Not sure I'll have the bread to get a sketch from him, but we'll see. He might have a. He usually has a binder of pages for reasonable prices. He had one at Wicked Comic Con I wanted to buy. I just didn't have the money. It was inked by Al Williamson. Let's get a little. There we go. That looks good. That's a good tone right there. Now let's see how we're doing. I actually, I should dry this a little bit. I've got my little hair dryer here. Hold on, I'm just gonna mute it for a second. Now, while this may look like just a neutral gray, it's actually Payne's gray, as I've talked about many times. This color right here. And it has a blue quality to it. So what you're seeing here is actually a cool blue gray shadow with warm yellow highlights. And that's what I'm trying to go for the underpainting. So it creates a greater sense of depth and more dynamism in the color. So it's not just a flat color. And I grew up watching the cartoon, so I absolutely give them the color bandanas. Some of the old school guys give me a little guff for that, but you know, it's what I grew up with. Hey Kevin, how you doing? Good to see you. I was actually meaning to message you if you wanted that Hulk piece. If not, I'll just make it available at the convention this weekend. No pressure, just that you would express some interest. I'd set it aside for you. It's my last big show of the year, so I'm trying to make a few bucks. Hopefully. Had to take the car to the garage. Didn't post about that. I can't see you? Okay. I don't know what that means. I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll DM you. Sorry, I'm also very tired. So normally I can keep up, but it's it's been that big push to getting everything done in time for the convention. And when you're wandering around the convention and if you see like a random sign like, celebrities this way or anything like that, I usually am the person who had to design it or whatever. It's not glamorous, but, you know, pays the bills. And there's always like 10 million signs that are needed like the week of the show, that, you know, regardless of follow-ups or attempted planning. Now, see what I'm doing is you'll see I'm following with the tonality that I had laid down already, and I'm going in and putting my green, my specifically mixed kind of olivey green for Donnie. I start right along the edges like this, like right there with the Payne's gray, and I come in a little bit onto the yellow, and I see how much paint I got if I need a little more extra tone there. Come back in like that. And then when I've come into the yellow about halfway, I go in and I clean my brush and I get just plain water. And what it does is it pulls it towards the light source like that. And that's the maneuver right there that I'd been trained to do, many, many years, and I could never figure it out with markers. I've had a few friends of mine recently post old drawings I did with those, uh, like Prismacolor and Copic markers, and I spent a fortune on those damn things. And honestly, like I just could never get them to sing like other artists could. I mean, there are artists that do absolutely breathtaking marker drawings, and they had been the standard for so long in the comic convention scene that I was like, okay, I've got to give this a try because this is what everybody's doing. This is what people want to buy. And I'll just be honest, I just never had the skill for it. And I tried every damned tutorial and everything that I could to try to get better at it, but I'm just a better painter. Like it's just some people are better at some things than others. I'm just better at painting than I am at drawing with markers. There's an organicness to it. There's a little bit of a free fall to paint to it, especially to watercolor. Like you're going in and throwing in some tone, and you're letting the way the water flows dictate, some of the quality of your piece. You have to know how it moves and how the water reacts, and there's actually different techniques where I'll use different types of water. I'll use like a sparkling water, and it will actually create a different texture when it dries. Same thing with salt water. You can add salt and other things to your water and do different things to it and get different reactions. Much like using with oil paintings, like a gel medium or something else, where you can get it to do different things by giving it a different base. And more than likely, I will be opening up probably 3 commission slots to start after Rhode Island. One of them is already spoken for by, I believe, a person in the chat here. Um, but I'm only going to do a couple at a time. And when they're done, I'll tell people that I can do a couple more. But like what has ended up happening in the past is I just get overwhelmed, um, and it's just me. So I have a no matter how hard I try, I get overwhelmed by how much stuff there is. So I'm going to try to just take it slow, like 1 to 3 at a time. It is you, Kevin. It is you. Yes, sir. Um, but yeah, I think that's the best way for me to do it, so I don't get too bogged down. I've taken those giant lists before, and it just crushed me. Hey, Ethan. Watercolor always blows your mind. I hope in a good way. I hope you enjoy at least maybe the results, or if you practice them. They're I gotta be honest, like, if I didn't have teachers showing me, like, legitimate technique and color theory and layering and how to use your transparencies and all that stuff, I was very lucky. I had some really excellent, teachers when I was younger that had nothing to do with comics. It was they were fine artists. One of them, exhibited paintings in New York on a regular basis. Betty was just absolutely wonderful. She gave me wonderful tips. And you know see, and that's where I take the water in, and it pulls this tone towards where you lay down the water, and you're thinking about that 3D modeling. It's three-dimensional, so like this light patch here needs to be a little darker than this light patch here, and I believe this one actually needs to be the lightest. Gotta get some water on there. The student has become the master. Good. Yeah, like I'll show you a different technique that I used for this is like an additive build up technique, but in the one that I posted just this earlier today, um, this is actually a reductive technique where you'll go in and fully flat paint this thing, and then you go in and just add water. You add water right here, and then you use a paper towel, and you can actually pull up the pigment, and it actually creates this shiny, different finish to it. It's a totally different finish. And again, it's probably not something that many people walking down an alleyway in the artist alley are gonna notice, but, um, this is like one of the few like I said to my wife yesterday, this is like one of the few things in the world that I'm legitimately good at. And see, I'm coming along on top of that Payne's gray, which is not a neutral gray, especially when you mix in a little bit of green, you'll get that nice blue quality to it. It's never too late to dig down and start as a hobbyist, you know. I got that making comics panel, and every so often when I do those making comics panel, I have somebody pop in who's like, I liked doing this stuff in school, and I just left it because I had to, get a job and do all the adult stuff. And I always encourage them, just give it. Don't stress yourself out, but if it's something that could give you some satisfaction in this busy, crazy world, seriously, go for it. Oh, thanks, man. I wish comic companies wanted to pay me to do these for covers, but, you know, I've pitched it at several different intervals and, they're all like, "No, no, we want the digital coloring." So, I don't know, maybe if I did like two couple of mock covers, it would show people what I do. I am gonna do a large, Helena painting as my variant for the next Helena issue. I've already got the giant piece of, illustration board they had, and what inspired me to do it, other than just doing these streams and these watercolors, was is they had the board, on sale. Yeah, absolutely, Jonathan. That was one of the things about Valiant that I liked as a kid, was how it wasn't like the ultra lens flary early digital color, which I was not reacting to. Ethan, your favorite turtle's Raphael, but when I was a kid, it was Michelangelo. Yeah, I think that's like Michelangelo is like the gateway turtle for a lot of people, and then they gravitate to um, who their character is as it progresses. I don't have my. I did do a Raphael one. I posted it a little while ago. It was just a headshot. I've been doing these 3/4 body ones to try to get people interested in picking them up and use it to buy some Christmas presents for my friends. And I have I've already seen the Christmas stuff showing up. Christmas stuff should not be showing up in these stores before my birthday in the middle of November. Just a little water, maybe a little too much. Pick it up a little bit. There we go. Trying to remember I like the one who eats pizza. Yes. Oops. That's what happens when you got watercolor on your hands. Hit the button twice. What was Jonathan? What was the name? I think the name of the person who did the watercolors at Valiant was Janet Jackson, right? And I know that some of them were colored by the infamous Knob Row, as it was cited in the comic book. I actually just read a Valiant comic that was inked by Knob Row, which, to my understanding, and I can verify this with Joe this weekend, was it was basically like the book was late, so everyone just hopped on and tried to ink it as fast as possible. Oh, thank you, Ethan. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will likely be doing some artwork for some Christmas presents, and you know, when I give artwork, I tell them, right away, like, you are under no obligation to hang this. If you want to sell it for an Amazon gift card, you're welcome to do that as well. Um, I always do find it funny that anytime Jim Shooter does an interview, he mentions that the image guys called up the Valiant offices to find out how to ink and color, how to color a comic book. All right, we got our green down. Now let's get a little. We need a little yellow ochre, as I was talking about. And yellow ochre is a color that, if you're an oil painter, is generally used for underpainting, because you use a little burnt sienna, a little raw umber, a little yellow ochre, and generally you build on top of that using a lot of uh, warm earth tones. Earth tones are generally the basis for most oil paintings like that. And you can tell when people have training, because you can look for those things. Um, and people who are self-taught, and it's not a bad thing, because you see different choices being made and it creates completely different artwork. But like, there are certain hallmarks that you can say, oh, this person has had some lessons and some training. There was actually for a very long time, you could tell a RISD, trained student painter from, across a gallery. There were certain things that they used to be trained to do, and you couldn't miss it. Now, I hate using color straight out of the tube. There has to be a little something in it, so, like, I'll take a little raw sienna there, and I'm actually gonna grab just a touch. This is my Payne's gray, just a tiny bit, just a tiny, tiny bit. My art teachers would yell at me for using any sort of color out of the tube, and you know, having anything other than the primary colors and mixing everything was a sign of a lazy artist. You had to stretch your own canvas. You had to do it all yourself. I missed a spot. I missed a spot. We'll go back and we'll get that after we do the front of this shell. I'll start with just a little water there. This is what we are going to do with this. I want you to be able to see that texture I added. So we're going to go a little thinner on the color. Just a little thinner. Because I want you to be able to pick up that detail when you look at it. And honestly, like one of the things I'm trying to do is make it so that you don't necessarily know which layer that detail is coming from. Is it coming from the yellow? Is it coming from underpainting? It's just a dimension to it that I like to see there. And certain artists use just like smooth, flat color, and it looks great. But I like to add just a little different texture. And you can see I build up a little bit of pigment here and less, 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 just more water. You just add more water as you come in. And then right along the edge where the shell comes together, I'm going to have a dark edge there. And then over here, we're actually going to go lighter so that you have that depth. Oop, accidentally pulled a little bit from the upper shell. So what we do in this instance, we get our paper towel, which you always have handy, and just blot it. And since I'm using a smooth Bristol board to paint on instead of like that textured watercolor, it's a little more forgiving. That's one of those little techniques I tell people is that like using crappy paper or cheap paper will kill you. It'll absolutely kill you. The paint will go all over the place. It will not do what you want it to do. And your paper, you see this here where I've added just little water bits. That's where paper becomes saturated, is when you see all those little bits of the fibers. That's the fibers actually taking on more liquid than they can hold their shape with. And it becomes weak and falls apart. And when that happens on your paper with your painting, same thing happens. Absolutely the same thing happens. And it can kill your painting. You can you can have all the technique in the world, but if you do it on crummy paper, it'll kill you. Art's all about lighting. I don't know if I subscribe to that, um, but it's an interesting perspective. So, I mean, I would agree with if you're going with realism for sure. Lighting is just vital if you're going for any sort of realism, and even in cartoons, like having your light source. So I guess in a way, representational art. I can dig it. I can dig it because it defines all the shapes, defines the tones, the colors, everything, everywhere you're going. I can see where you're going. Oh, we're not comparing levels. We're just having a nice art talk. And that's one of my favorite things to do. And I respect your position. I see where you're coming from. But it makes sense. It makes sense. It's the type of thing that we'll talk about, amongst artists at like at the convention on Artist Alley. We'll just talk about, well, what do you think makes a great piece or a great cover, or what do you see in this artist that inspires you? That's well, those are the types of discussions that I like having with people that I admire their work, and you know and I respect, like, you got to respect the hell out of anybody that can do this stuff full time, or puts themselves out there at conventions. Like, just it's hard. It's really hard. Well, Ethan, I'll definitely check out your profile, and if you got and check out more of your work. Just dropping in a little extra tone in there. I generally start with it's an image in my mind, but I always start with little rough drawings. I've shown them many times. Let me see if I've got one nearby. I have to see if I can show any. Let me see if I've got anything in here that I can show you guys. Even just little squiggles, like giant hand, two characters jumping, you know, and then I'll take that and I'll go from there. Hey, that's cool. You put yourself out there, and that's, dude, it's hard. And I'm sure you make those kids super happy, which is great. So kudos. Hey, when I was a kid, I did caricature art even, I would do illustrations for ads in newspapers. Anything where they said we're looking for an artist, I threw my hat in the ring. So I would just, and it led to some gigs, and it led to some crummy gigs that I would never recommend to anyone. But it was all just an experience. SP. I don't know what you mean. All right. Well, we got our yellow in. We're gonna have to mix in some browns now. There's a lot of brown on the turtle characters. Gonna let that dry some and try to work around it. So we'll start with the taped areas. I actually have two palettes going because I need too many darn colors. This is a composite blend Princeton #4 round. Not an expensive brush. Does what I need it to do. It's got a smooth finish, and the bristles don't fall out. I've actually done tons of paintings with cheap ass brushes. Um, I actually think that needs a little more yellow. I want it to be kind of like a cream. Yeah, there we go. That's the color. There we go. I pretty much, when it dries, just want it to make it look like the tape is old. Um, and it's like a lighter brown. It's a little lighter. We can take that. When it goes on top of that blue, it really neutralizes it. It's not as warm. Oh, yeah, me too. I follow a bunch of artists that do their online stuff. Yeah. And Twitter, I see tons of good artists. I see artists all over the place. It's uh it's really nice. Some days it's inspiring, some days it's intimidating. Um, but when I see people putting good art out into the world, it's great. It's one of my favorite things about social media. It's just following the artists. If you were to look at my feeds, it would be mostly art and comics, and not just comic art. There'd be a good smattering of cat videos, fishing, and hockey. Fair amount of hockey as well. Some of these I'm going to come back in on with a little bit of darker tone, I think, at the end. Give it a little bit more snap. A little snap, as my art teacher used to say. But I like that stuff. Instagram has become less user friendly for me, I think. Yeah, yeah. Eruzione and those folks. Actually, Eruzione's brother was the athletic director at the college I went to, um, and I'd see him around once in a while. I'm a big Paul Newman fan, so Slapshot, big fan of Slapshot. Um, when I was a kid, the Mighty Ducks, huge deal. Um, but I also like one of the ones that surprised me was actually The Goon. That was a surprisingly entertaining hockey movie. Has the guy from those American Pie movies. Did I meet that guy at a show? I don't remember. I met somebody from those movies at a show. They're very nice. I'll take this. It is, yeah. It's a good flick. Kurt Russell, can't go wrong. Uh, I think it's Sean William Scott. Hey, Eli, good to see you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Eli Stone, another fantastic artist, popping in on the chat there. He's got some art lessons that he's offering for the kiddos. This is a mix of raw umber, burnt sienna, a tiny bit of um, burnt umber, and a little bit of yellow ochre. Because if you have just a tiny bit of some of your relative colors, it gives some harmony to the whole piece. It makes it look like, the colors all came from the same creature. If you drew the turtle, you know, there's a little bit of yellow ochre in his skin, on his shell. It gives a little bit of a harmony to the whole piece. If there's even just tiny bits of it, and you don't even notice it, and you don't even know that it helps, but it does help. Like that's one of those things that I was trained to do. Sean William Scott is on a TV show called Welcome to Flatch. It's very sweet and wacky and funny. Cool. I'll have to add it to the long list of things that I have not seen yet, that I have no doubt will get ridiculed for at the convention this weekend. How have you not seen this? I have not. I'm sorry. I will say that the calls for my head for having not seen Game of Thrones have died down since the show ended, so I feel like I've ridden that one out. This weekend, I will be at the Rhode Island Comic Con, the biggest show in the smallest state as it is billed. They got a zillion, literally a zillion TV, movie, celebrity folks. So if that's your bag, I'm sure they have something or someone that you'd like to get a picture with. But I will be an Artist Alley. You never saw Game of Thrones either. Haha, I am not alone. So I can tell people, look, Jessica said it was fine. Cool. Yeah, I mean, if he's an autograph nut, there's anything and everything that you could want there. Old TV, new TV, Marvel people. Yeah, the guy that runs it is a Supernatural fan, and they have one of the major folks from that show there this year. Jess and Ryan, I have your Iron Man Spidey piece all packed. It'll be at the show. Hey Rob, how you doing? I'll take the peanut butter cup. I will. Jess, I will. Thanks very much, Rob. Yeah, we're having a good time. Thanks for popping in. Oh, yeah, Ethan, this has been great. Oh, Rob, we're hanging in there. We're in the home stretch for this show, and I'm gonna be happy when we're done. I hope everyone has a great time and all, but it is a lot. It's a lot of work. And I do have I have more confidence in my painting than I do in my drawing for whatever reason, even after all these years. And there's that little bit of yellow I left underneath, and you can just barely see it coming through, and that's what I wanted. See, there's that little bit of yellow. This is also why when I sell watercolor pieces, they're like twice as much as the black and white ones because they take more than twice as long to do them. Mixing just a little bit of a soft yellow because we've got some gold bits, like the little buttons and things. Just a softer yellow that's kind of between these two. We don't need very much. We just need a little bit. I actually need a smaller brush for this. There we go. Tiny brush. Yeah, I do for a black and white drawing like this, I only charge like 35 bucks. But for a color one, it's 70. You know, I don't go nuts. It's not like, the old fine art gallery days where like a watercolor this big would, demand, three, $400. But I think it's a fair price. See this softer yellow? It's not quite as sharp as the lemon, and it doesn't have the cadmium's lack of, I would say, punch. It doesn't. It absorbs more light when you're looking at it. There was actually a book we had to read in college that was a very useful book, and it was all about how the eye perceives color and like different wavelengths and stuff. And it's one of those few things from college that I still use. Like any day that I have to approach color, I think about parts of that book. I have it on the shelf out in the other room. I should post it, or do a short video about it. Because I honestly believe that, like, when I look at certain comic books, there's just not enough, room for a colorist to use a lot of color theory because they have to follow style guides and everything else. And there's one artist who's just absolutely phenomenal with color theory, and he's doing a Spawn book. I couldn't believe it. Micah Del Mundo uses acrylic and watercolor and mixed media, and did the Weird World miniseries for Marvel. Did Thor. Um, just does absolutely just breathtaking paintings, and it's like a whole book of paintings. Like I don't know how he gets it done, so quickly. And then we can come back in and get this cadmium again. You can see it's like almost got a mustard quality to it. And we can add just a couple of touches away from our light source, which is up over there. And it gives us just a little more depth to the color. And you can see it. I do have a YouTube channel. Yep, yep. And this is live on that channel right now as well. And they just unlocked some new um, tools for me to use. YouTube did, and I'm starting to learn how to use the posting tools and stuff. I think it's just Ian Chase Nichols Art. There's a link tree in the description of this video, and that'll take you there if that's where you wish to go. I've got that. I've got Twitch. I've got Twitter, and this is all on all of those platforms all at once because I use a software called Restream. And I recommend it just because I find it's easier. You're actually broadcasting through your browser instead of a third party software. I found those third party softwares too confusing for me, and it required like OBS. It required more setup than I was capable of. My buddy Eli taught me how to use this stuff, and yeah, it's been very helpful. I actually have to mix. I did not mix a purple. Tisk tisk. I don't know what this purple looks like, so we're gonna see. What do we got here? This is blue. This is straight. This is basically like your true medium blue. This is a mixed blue. You can see when I mix it, the pigment gets kicked up. Yep, red and blue. But in this case, I did buy this purple, and I just want to see, it might not be the right purple, so we might have to mess around with it, because that Don bandana has a soft purple to it. I actually need to use, if you're switching to cool colors, that's another trick. Warm color water, cool color water. You got to have two different jars. I'm going to use a syringe to get some water real quick. Pick up some of this pigment off the bottom. There we go. This one might work. This one might work. It's a little dark. Well, I don't know. That might work. Let's take a look. Let's add a little more water. See how she looks. I think that might work. What is this? This is Violet Windsor. They had, if you go to Blick, if you're in the New England area, the Blick in Providence, they had a sale on some of their watercolors, and I rarely ever buy mixed watercolors, but they were just too cheap to leave there. And I can wander around an art supply store for hours, like, oh, that looks fun. Well, let's see if that helps. There we go. That gets us a soft. It's not bad. It's not a bad purple. I think that's usable. A block away from a comic shop, I'd be broke. I would be broke if I lived near a comic shop like that. When I was in high school, I had to drive like an hour to get to a comic book store that was any, it was like any back issues and stuff. Like the comic store near me had a lot of gaming stuff. It was like 20 minutes away, but I was always a big fan of like dollar bins and old comics, so I would drive to a store in Columbus. Back when I lived in Ohio when I was in college, or not in college, high school, college. I was in Boston. Come on, brain, you gotta help me out here. Oops, a little over. Might have to use our tiny brush again. You window shop, yeah, yeah. I had a comic store in my neighborhood when I lived in Jamaica Plain in Boston, and what saved me was that they had like no back issues. So it was literally just new newsstand and trades, and I can keep myself from overspending on new issues and trades. I got my regular pull list there and stuff, but that store is gone now, unfortunately. JP Comics, RIP. We got any of my JP people in the stream tonight? Got any of them? Robert, you hiding out in there somewheres? Paul, Robert, any of you guys? Cole? Comics make great birthday cards. Throw away the birthday cards. That's true. I agree. And I see some people online. I saw some folks that were giving away comics for Halloween instead of candy. It's a good idea. All right. Well, I got to hit this with the hair dryer in a minute here. Let's see. Oh, we missed that spot. Let's go in and get that green. Fill in some of the gaps that we missed. This little underarm. The back of his shoulder that you can still see. Just a little patch. Oh, there we go. Cool. I see the number of people watching. They give me a little counter from all of the different platforms, and a vast majority of folks are as Ethan put it, window shoppers, I believe, lurking in the shadows. It's okay. You don't have to chat. You're welcome to just hang out. All right. I'm gonna mute the mic again for a second so I can hit up the get the get the hair dryer going. And this is just a regular like drugstore hair dryer. There's a few lurkers tonight, I gotta say. There's a few, more than a few. All right. Well, now it's decision-making time. I had thought to use, on this one I used a darker background where it's got like all the Payne's gray and the red and then the magenta. But I think I'm going to go a little lighter on this one. I think because we have the purple bandana that I would like to go with something that complements that a little bit more. You know, and I thought about going with like a darker purple, but like I think I want to go with something nice and bright. Let's make it a little happier. Let's get a little nicer. Let's make it a nice orange. So let's go from like a brown to an orange to a yellow. And let's have the yellow coming up from our light source up here for our background. So we need to mix some more colors. We've got our brown. I'm going to actually get a little bit more umber going here. I just got to find the tube. There's our sepia. I actually think I'd, one sec. There's our sienna. Need a little more sienna. Then we got to mix our orange. And I want to keep this yellow as it is. So we're going to take one of these reds right here. This is a magenta, almost a pure magenta. And then this is a cadmium mixed with alizarin crimson. So we're going to use that one as our mixer. We've got our cadmium, we've got our yellow. Let's get a little bit of our lemon yellow and just a tiny bit of this one. I'm gonna have to order some more cadmium yellow, I think. Starting to run low. I've had these paints since college, basically. They last forever. So if you ever get into watercolors, it's one of the reasons I always recommend the metal tube ones. Like they're more expensive, but you can start with just 3 and they really do last forever. Let's get some of our clear water here. There's our orange. That's a good orange. It probably just needs a little more water. Yeah, that'll do nicely. Okay, let's get a little bit more of our brown. Just had a few new people sign on. Welcome. Welcome to the live drawing stream. I posted in a few different places than I normally do. I threw one up in the Tmnt art group. I don't know if anybody popped in from over there, but I'm not good at self-promotion, and I don't like doing it so much. Okay. For backgrounds, we definitely need to get our bigger brush. So I use a big honking brush for background colors that are big. This is a number 10. This is a Blick synthetic. It works really well. As long as you clean it, it should last forever. Um, but you do have to clean your brushes. It's one of the things I always tell folks. Take care of your brushes and they'll take care of you. I've had some brushes, like this is a cheap um, Princeton shader. I've had this brush, it's missing some paint, but I would say 15 years. And it is as cheap as it gets, but it gets this really cool streak effect in ink. Oops, got a little blur. There we go. Sorry about that. You know what? I actually think that we want to introduce something that I haven't used yet. And this is sepia. You might know the term mostly for referring to photographs, and it is like the most neutral of neutral. And I'm just going to put a little dab right here. But there's like a tiny bit of warmth to it. So we're going to add just a little bit of that to our brown. You see that nice, almost like mud color? I want to add that to our brown for our background. There we go. It'll soften it. So hopefully, the turtle has the most punch. Like I don't want to distract from the turtle. Now what I'm doing here is actually taking some of our orange and we're actually mixing right on the paper so that there's a taper to it. Oops, a little too much brown up at the top there. Always have my paper towels ready to go. A little bit, yeah, but not at nighttime, so going for something a little different, a little different. And hey, it may work, it may not, but it's going based on, complementary colors and basic principles. And if I don't like it, I can always add some more tone. I can remove some tone. Let's get a little bit of our yellow. A little bit more of that brown over here so that matches the other side. One thing to remember also is when the stuff dries, you're going to get a much softer finish. So, like all that reflection that you're seeing in the camera, that's all going to disappear. And one thing that I do with these watercolor pieces, I will go back in and actually flatten out the inks again on top of the watercolors, and it just adds that extra level of pop on the finished piece. If you really like the reflection, you can use a gloss fixative. Now, I like a matte fixative because I like a matte finish. This is a spray fixative. It's archive quality. It's not going to yellow anything. Honestly, with any sort of charcoal or dry medium that smudges, artists should be using that so that it lasts and doesn't smudge. Um, let's get our small brush here. Let's just pop in some extra yellow. Feeling a little extra yellow going in here might give us some nice little bits. But yeah, it's totally something that if you want to retain it, the artist can put a finish on it. It's like when you do an oil painting, you can add a varnish, and you can do different types of varnishes. Just as if you were finishing a coffee table, you can put anything on top of a painting. And that's like again another skill that you got to learn. I had to be taught how to do all that stuff. But it's definitely something that I'm sure if you commissioned like you know, anyone who does any regular paintings, like like Dave Dorman does beautiful paintings. Um, Trying to think of other people who I've seen doing paintings. Like I'm sure. Well, actually, Alex Ross does not always put a finish on his paintings, and I know this for a fact because I've held them in my hand, and I've actually seen that he puts an overlay on top of some of the stuff that he doesn't finish. And by finished, it doesn't mean that the rendering is not done. It just means that like he has not put any sort of fixative or sealant on top of the piece. And he uses gouache on a lot of stuff, so it actually has the ability to smudge. So imagine spending, Alex Ross art money. You bring it home, and that sucker smudges. I'm wanting some extra yellow. I don't know. I'm feeling the yellow. This lemon really punches through when you put it on top of stuff. See that? That's just like pow. It's got some kick to it, like a hot sauce. That would be one of my Bob Rossisms. I would talk about colors that punch through other colors, being spicy. I actually had an art teacher who would use the word. What was the word that Lori used to use? She used to use the word juicy, and I do believe it made some students uncomfortable. And here I'm just looking. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm looking at how the colors are taking to the paper, and I am reacting to it. And this is something that does take a lot of practice, and this is just something you learn with experience. Like I can see that because the water is pooling here, but I'm going to want to move this around a little bit just to give it a little bit of a breather. But I love these little edges and where you get these tone buildups. I think it just creates this wonderful free sense of like absolute chaos almost. It's unpredictable. You know, if I'm looking at a piece and I can predict everything about it, I can find it boring. Yes, that's getting a highlight right there. Spicy painting, that's right. Oops. How am I bad at turning on the buttons? I don't know. Just am. But I'm seeing, and this is where you don't want it to, this is a moment where you don't want to take out the hair dryer. Because if you take out the hair dryer, it's going to push all of those little bits of color around. It's going to bully your colors around. You have to let it get to a certain point of drying, like this right in here. I think this is exactly how I wanted this spot. So I am not touching that. I do think I need to add just a tiny bit of water right here because there's an edge that's forming there that I don't want. Oh, there we go. Lost you guys for a second. I think we're back. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but I did my one trick that sometimes fixes it, and here we are. But I think we're getting close to as far as I can take it without starting to touch it up with the hair dryer. I definitely need to add a little more purple into the bandana because that got really soft. Gonna have to add a little more color there. Let's see if we can start to dry this without bullying it. I'm gonna turn off the mic for a second again. All right. Now there's one spot I don't want to bully is right here and right here where there's these little pools of color that I want to dry exactly as they are. So we're going to turn our piece a little bit. And like I said, I think that purple needs a little bit of a punch up uh, to really get us where we want to go with this piece. So we're going to mix in a little bit more of the tone into this purple and see if we can really make it sing a little more. When you get down to the nitty gritty, it's the last half mile or so that can be tough. Because it comes down to like why do we think that some paintings or pictures are better than others? And I tend to think it's that extra 5% that people reach for when they go for something. I'm gonna turn it because I don't want to smudge things. But I'm trying to stay true to my light source while painting it upside down. So just punching it up a little bit, just a little more purple. And there's actually a few places where I might go in and add a little extra green here and there. Um, it's that last lap around. That's too much, too much, too much. There we go. Just a little bit of water. And that's definitely got a little more punch to it. The purple does, at least. Now I'm going to be a little impatient. I'm going to see if I can draw out just a little bit of this orange with a dry brush. Not too much. And then what we do is we take a wet brush. So we can mix it together and get rid of those. See those little dab edges? See if we can lose that. And we got another one down here. Being a little impatient just because I want to try to get this close to being done. And while that's drying, and we're still a little early, so I can show you what it'll look like when we add back. This is Kuretake brush pen, and I fill it with a matte black ink. And let's just start over here because this is mostly dry. See, it's nice rich black. And that's one of the things that I try to also recommend. If you're going for a matte finish on your drawing, you want matte ink too. But if you want a gloss finish, you could use a gloss ink like a speedball. it gives you that classic shiny finish. Here's where I'll go back in. Because what happens when the pigment goes over the ink, it loses some of its punch. So when you go back over it, and you get this nice rich black. I gotta get a little closer because of my eyes. So if I'm in the way, I'm sorry. But this is also why I don't necessarily call these true paintings, because they're more like colored drawings, if you were to get academic about it. Because it relies on line for its structure too much for it to be a true painting. Or painting is supposed to be more about form. Well, you can already see where we punch up the ink. And there's like a little mistake here where the orange bleeds over, and I'll come back in with some bleed-proof white, clean that up. But you can start to see already that it makes a big difference to go back in and just take this one last step and go over this stuff one more time. And I don't go over everything. I go over stuff that I think aids in tightening up the composition, things that need separation, stuff like that. It starts to just look more focused. And this is what happens when you paint on top of your line art instead of doing your painting first and then inking it, which I was never able to really get going, the reverse of what you just saw tonight. I'm going to move this so I have a little more room because I think we're pretty much done with our watercolors for the night. I think we might get this sucker done tonight. That'll be great. Then I'll only have one turtle left to finish. I've got a Mikey to finish, and then I will have all four done for the first time before a show in ages. I've been trying really, really hard. I'm gonna grab a seat so I'm a little less shaky. It's easier for me to ink when I'm sitting down. Now this ink is 100% waterproof, so you don't have to worry about it bleeding with your paints when you go over it again. Everything that we use tonight is also archival, so it should not fade. I mean, I guess if you left it in your car, like on your dashboard during the summer, it would probably fade. But you know, if you just hung it on your wall or whatever, it should last. Oh, thank you, Rob. Hey, I am happy to share what I know, and if it can help anybody else make some cool stuff, if they could just show it to me, I'd be thrilled. Just go make cool art. If you need a way to make something take a lot longer, I'm your guy. That's most people would be like, no, that's just not enough money in making it, going over all these little bits. But it's not about the money. It's about having pieces of art that I'm proud of. And it's one of the reasons I stopped doing color work at shows because I was just embarrassed by the rush color pieces I was putting out. And I think Craig will have a stack of reasonably priced art. Yes, absolutely. Craig's the man. I think we're actually both heading over to the convention center tomorrow to set up our booths. Drop off the heavy stuff, giant boxes of comics and such. Okay, I think I can now get into here. Now this line art got really destroyed by the paint, so this should really help out. Help make this hand look like it's coming forward instead of just sitting back there. I didn't go too dynamic, but it's supposed to be like, coming forward a little bit. It's not like a giant Kirby punch or a Sal Buscema or anything. Although I was trying to draw a Sal Buscema punch today, and that's harder than it looks if you're trying to keep your anatomy intact. At least it was for me. And I didn't want to just swipe a panel. I was just going for the energy of like a character flying across and like running into another one. I don't know why I've seen Sal getting some hate online, like people saying they don't like his work. I always loved Sal Buscema comic books. They were fun. Like his brother John was like this, renowned artist, and I love his stuff. And I have a page of John Buscema artwork, but I don't know. Sal did many an entertaining comic that brought a smile to my face. What I'm noticing is places where I use more pit pen definitely needs punched up. Um, yeah. This will be available at Rhode Island. Pieces like this are $70. It's full color, and you can see how much time I put into these suckers. So if I was paying myself by the hour, it would not be meeting federal minimum wage. I don't think. I've never actually done. Someone asked if I'd done sketch covers for like those companies that put those out. I have not. I did talk to a guy about it at one point, and it was one of those where I just never heard back. Another one of those where I sent an email, and I think that the internet ate it. Oh, of course, yes. There's always the haggling, but and there's always friend pricing. I always take care of my pals, and I even have a sign now that says I do trades. So if somebody's got like some piece of artwork they want to trade that I want, I actually traded at San Diego one year the pencils to one of the covers I did. I do my For this cover I had done my pencils and inks separately, and the inks were slightly different, and it had like the edits on it. This art dealer traded me a Silvestri Conan page for the pencil version of this cover. I was thrilled. I was like, "Are you sure?" But then he came by later, and he had already resold the piece he just got from me. So, um, absolutely, I totally agree, and I'm happy to give my friends deals and the people that support me, and anybody that pretty much anybody that hangs out on this stream regularly gets the friend price. I think, or I just end up giving people stuff. You can't tell my wife that. If she's watching, she knows, but she gets mad if I give too much art away. And she's right. She's right. I just like making my friends, you know, making them happy. What's the difference? I give them a sketch at a convention or for Christmas. I don't think there's a difference. It's a Christmas present. You just got it at the show. I think you're just as good as an illustrator as a painter. Oh, thank you, Ethan. That's very, very nice of you. And thanks for popping on and hanging out, man. It's been really nice talking to you. I'll have to check out some of your work. And it's really awesome that you go do sketches that makes the kiddos happy. All right. I don't think I have any bleed proof white on me. I think it's in the kitchen. But let's give it one more hair dryer. Let me just turn off the microphone real quick. Well, let's just sign our piece here. I can thank you all for hanging out with me tonight. I look forward to it every week. It's been my pleasure to paint this tonight with you folks. It was fun, Brian, but I'll see you in a couple days. It'll be great. We'll hang out. But have a good night, Ethan. Thank you. Sounds good, Jonathan. I'll see you. But now we have 2. So have a good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. And I will see you again next Wednesday. Good night.